yourself.
We are live. So this is Angelique Duffield from Bright Spark Media, and today is the Photography Pros live chat. I'm very happy to have three amazing photographers on here today. And this is kind of a semi-annual event that I started for my students at the Center for Arts and Technology. They have a bucket list project that they have to do for the 11 weeks that they're on term here, and it's to use social media and social networking to connect with people, photographers and other people in the industry that they can meet online. And this was kind of my challenge that I came up with last term when I did it, and it was my challenge to bring together some photographers that could actually come onto this live show. And it gives some exposure to the photographers. You get to try something new by being on a Hangout on air if you've never been on one. And it gives the students some chance to ask some questions of you too. So thank you so much for joining me here today. And how about I just go through and let you introduce yourselves. Let's just start with Jamie. Go ahead and tell me about yourself and your photography.
Hi, my name's Jamie, and I'm based in the Vancouver area, Langley to be exact. I've been a wedding photographer for the last almost 7 years. I started really young, my last year of high school, and it's been really the only full-time job I've ever had. And so, yeah, I specialize in weddings, do a little bit of portraits, but really make weddings my focus.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on today, Jamie.
Yeah.
And Colin, tell us about yourself, because you are not just a photographer. So tell us what you do.
That makes me sound so special. Well, photography is obviously a huge passion of mine. Started back in about 2006. I'm a full-time realtor. That's really my job. But photography, I love cars, so I took a lot of pictures of cars, some portraits, obviously a lot of real estate, just kind of a little bit of everything.
Awesome, cool. And Braden, tell us about you. You were actually on one of the students' bucket lists, and that's how I came across your photography.
Sure. So I graduated from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco in 2008, and I graduated with a degree in photography, and I've been shooting ever since. So I specialize in commercial portraiture, mostly for advertising.
Right. Cool. And I just saw that you had some pictures done for the Marriott hotel chain, right?
I did, yeah. The project really just went live at the beginning of June. I shot it a couple of months ago, and it's been pretty exciting, especially from a social media standpoint, because they have this whole campaign that's called #LoveTravels, which encourages anyone who sees the work to kind of talk about their own romance and post it on social media, and it's sort of this live feed on Marriott's website where you can see who's posting.
Oh, what a great idea. That's awesome. We'll talk about that sort of thing later on as I ask you questions, all right?
Sure.
Okay, so why don't I just get started? And while I've got you on here, how about I'll just ask you, how did you get started in photography? Braden.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. I thought you were talking to someone else.
No, I said we've got you on, so we'll keep you up. So how'd you get started?
Okay. All right, forgive me. So I was an artist growing up, really, trained in drawing and painting, and then my senior year of high school, I took a photography class, and I had already committed to going to Boston University my freshman year of college before I even took a photo class, and I just fell in love with it, really. So my freshman year of college, I wasn't focusing on it at all, but I joined the photo club. I was trying to work for magazines as a photographer, joined the photo club. It just was, I immersed myself in it. And that summer, I decided to take a couple classes, and the Academy of Art University in San Francisco offered me a grant to take 2 free classes. And I took them up on that offer. And I thought it was just going to be a summer program, but I decided to transfer to the Academy, and I left Boston University and haven't looked back. And that was back in 2004.
What a great story. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about Colin? Tell us about your photography, the start of your photography career.
Kind of a funny story, really. This was back in 2006. And I had just broken up with my girlfriend, and I needed something to keep myself busy so I would stop thinking about her. So I grabbed my dad's camera that had manual settings. It was a little Canon kind of medium line point and shoot. And I just went out and started taking pictures at night and fell in love with the different way light works and everything like that of the city, and started learning manual settings and just kind of was self-taught and fell in love with it from there, and bought an XTI, and kind of up and up I went and started taking pictures of cars because I liked cars, and it just kind of took off.
Yeah, we've had some interesting talks about car photography, and I've seen your gear when you brought it out, the one that you used for the video that I posted on the Facebook page. Some
That's
pretty
right.
nice stuff. We should go out and shoot sometime.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be fun.
Awesome. All right, Jamie. So you said you've had your only job as a photographer. Tell us how you got started.
Pretty much. I got started back in 2006 as well, and it was also for my dad's camera, like Colin. Yeah, we traveled a lot growing up, and so on our family vacations, my dad was always kind of the one to have the newest and greatest technology, so he had probably the Canon Rebel back then, and I picked it up and decided I'd figure out how to use it. And the first trip, I mean, I just used everything on automatic, and then really that fall would have been my grade 10 or 11 the year, maybe grade 11 year, I really set myself to learn everything about the camera that I could. So I read the manual cover to cover, and then I started Googling a lot about different wedding photos and wedding photographers, and then really fell in love with that whole world and that you could actually be a full-time photographer. And so after just like a year of reading and reading and reading, I assisted a wedding photographer out at a couple shoots, and then launched into family portraits, and then shot my first wedding shortly after that in the spring of 2008.
Cool. And I've been following your blog for a number of years, and you seem to have always been in magazines and shooting for your blog and things like that. So what a great way to start.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Okay, so how about, did you ever do any darkroom photography? So I'm guessing you pretty much learned in digital, so that'll be my question to everybody. Did you get your start in film or digital photography? Jamie?
Yeah, mine was all digital. I mean, I've taken film photos from my parents' camera, obviously, when I was 10, 11 years old, but certainly nothing when it came to setting.
Right.
So I know nothing about that world.
and I hear that a lot. I was actually, I went to college in Ottawa at Algonquin College, and I took the photography program. Graduated in 1998, and yeah, I learned in film. So it was a 2-year program. So I did all the darkroom stuff, and we used 4x5 cameras. So those big sheets of films that you see with the cover over the back of people's heads. That sort of thing. I've learned as a photographer that way, and it's so different coming into photography in the digital age. And so many of my students and people that I meet have never actually shot film, and I think it was a great experience. I actually learned the very first time when I went to camp. When I was a kid, and we did black and white, and it was so much fun. It was like, you know, a one-day experience. So it was really exciting to do that. And I think I know somebody locally who's going to be trying to do that sort of thing and just giving people that experience that you don't get anymore.
Yeah.
So how about you, Colin? Did you ever do any film photography?
No, I had a little point and shoot film camera, but that hardly counts. No, otherwise, yeah, I started in digital, and I'm kind of sad that I missed that whole stage. I never... You know, obviously learning was so much easier because you take a picture and you can look at the back of the camera rather than having to write down your settings and then check it later and wait for it to develop. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. Unfortunately, I missed that. I've thought about going to film and just picking up my parents' old SLR and just shooting with it, but I just haven't had a chance yet, or for whatever reason it hasn't happened.
Right. Well, you're lucky you're local. You can actually take that workshop. I'll send you a message later and let you know who's going to be doing it.
Sure.
And Colin, so how about you? Did you ever do any darkroom work?
Braden, you mean?
Oh, sorry, Braden. Sorry.
So in high school, my photo class was all film. And then when I went to the academy, the first year was also pretty much exclusively film. So we got to work with color slides and 4x5 cameras and all of the developing. But it was really after that first year of school where the entire school transitioned pretty quickly into digital, and they really pushed that on us quite a bit. So yeah, I did have a little bit of experience, but I haven't touched film in almost a decade.
Do you feel like you miss it?
No.
I'm guessing there's nobody here that would ever say that they missed it if they did. All right. So how important do you think social media and blogging is for photographers, and include things like video marketing in it as well? So do you want to just go ahead, Braden, and tell us about it? So obviously with the hashtagging with the Marriott Hotel, but how about for yourself, your own marketing of your photography?
So my career, I hate to say it, probably wouldn't exist without social marketing. I can't say that I'm an expert. It's sort of, I fell into it, basically. I started working on a project last year called All Love is Equal. And it was a series of romantic images that focused on same-sex couples. And I just thought I was onto something where I was filling a void in commercial imagery where you don't see a lot of the highly produced images with same-sex couples. And so I went to all these different countries. And long story short, in February of this year, both BuzzFeed and Advocate asked if they could feature my project for Valentine's Day.
Fantastic.
And I agreed. I was grateful for the opportunity. And really the work went viral. So it traveled to Yahoo, to French Elle, to French Glamour, to Huffington Post. It was on the front page of all these sites, front page of Yahoo. It was incredible, and really I owe a lot of it to social media and how it spread. And that ultimately led to the exposure for the Marriott, and they saw my campaign and loved it and wanted to extend it for their own brand.
Awesome. That's a great story. And it's great talking about a niche and why that's really important in photography and how specializing, and not just social media, but gets you jobs and gets you recognized for something that no one else is doing. That's
Exactly.
Great. Yeah, awesome. And I saw your article. I think I read it in BuzzFeed, and that's where I first started kind of researching what you're doing and what you're up to. And I'm so glad that you said yes to being on the show.
Sure.
Colin, tell me about your experience with social media and networking. You can bring in real estate too, but I also know that you do a lot of video marketing with your dad.
That's right. Well, I'll start with photography. Obviously, social media is huge. It's a great way to share images, whereas before it was so hard to get your images in front of an audience. So if you have something that's really good, whether it's a snapshot of your city, that's worked really well for me. I'll just post a beautiful picture of, we have cherry trees here, so of the cherry blossoms was one example, and all these people, like it and reshare it, and you have your little watermark in there. Historically, for me, it was all about cars, so I'd post on the local car forum, and people would see it, and they'd say, oh, that was really cool, I want a picture of my car like that. So that's worked really well. But as far as real estate goes, video marketing has been tremendous. I've got a 5D Mark III. It shoots video, so I shoot all of my video on that. I've got a couple of lights, but mostly reflectors, and this mic right here. And it's tremendous because people get to see a little bit about your personality. Jamie, I know you just did an intro video that I saw, and that looked really good. People can't see your personality or how you look or how you are just from your picture. They need to see how you act and if you smile and how they can relate to you. And I think video does a really good job of portraying that people wouldn't normally be able to see. And then, of course, there's many different ways to promote that once you have that content.
Fantastic. That's a great answer. And part of doing these Hangouts on Air is how I got started using it for Google Plus Hangouts for webinars, and then started using this. And this is all part of video marketing. And I can cut this into short Q&A sections later and repurpose it and put it on my blog, and obviously put it out on Twitter and Google Plus and Facebook and that. So that's a big part of how I'm using video marketing. And as a photographer, I've been using video for a long time, like even just for portfolios and for clients, making little just highlight videos of their weddings or of their engagement shoots. And I'm guessing that, Jamie, you do a lot of that too, because I've seen that sort of stuff for your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, social media has been really important in my brand and in my business. I've been blogging since pretty much day one of my business. So if you go back into my blog archives, I think they started in 2006 or 2007. So there's a lot of words and posts on there. And that's been really instrumental in my business, just having kind of a couple times a week a place where somebody can check and have a glimpse into my life, the work that I'm doing, my personality, and also follow that. There are many people who followed my blog for years, and it's really amazing how that can just create like a brand loyalty. And especially in something like weddings, everybody knows someone who is getting married. Now that might not be for 4 years until my name comes up when their sibling is getting married or they're getting married, but all of it builds just the worth of my brand. And so I have always tried to incorporate Instagram, Twitter, blogging, and then videos. I've tried to produce a new video about every year. Just kind of an update, and like Colin was talking about, like a live look into my business beyond just the photos.
Right, and that's a really good point, because a lot of what video does is what blogging can't do, and even podcasting, that you've got that real connection with the viewers, that it's almost like being there. And I think I've seen a huge increase in the amount of videos, but still video is really underused, and same with like YouTube and Hangouts on Air, that people are still not jumping on board. And even social media, sometimes I feel like I'm banging my head trying to get people to use it. But it's really great to hear how you're all using it, and how you feel like it's put you out there, and that people do really follow you and really are interested in hearing your story and following you over years, and then eventually, years down the line, they might actually hire you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just instant gratification.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so how about your favorite social networks? And you just mentioned a couple, Jamie. You said Instagram and YouTube, and what else was it? Facebook?
Sorry, it was Instagram, Twitter, and blog.
Right.
But to be honest, I'm kind of leaving Twitter slowly in the dust and focusing very heavily on Instagram. I just think it's kind of the way of the future.
Right. So do you use video and photography in Instagram, and how do you use Instagram for your pictures?
I don't so much use video. I think I've had 2 videos on there. They were nothing special, believe me. But with Instagrams, I kind of have, I'd say like 20% of my Instagrams are like my latest shoots, or here's what I'm working on. But I mean, the other 80% is just very personal. Here's my life. Here's what I'm up to. And also a way to include a lot of writing. I love writing, and so I love how Instagram, it's ultimately a very simplified blog platform. One photo, writing about it.
Right, cool. So I don't actually use much writing at all when I use Instagram, and I don't use Instagram a lot, but I know it's something that I'm getting more into, because there's just so much to do. You've got to pick 1 or 2 to focus on. So just out of curiosity, why are you leaving Twitter? What's making you choose something else?
I'm just getting bored with it. I don't know. I think I was a really early adapter of it. Like, I've probably been on since, I don't know when it launched, but I know I was on in 2008.
Right.
And so it's just been a long time. And I don't know, just the text only is boring me. And
Yeah.
I feel like Instagram shows off my work and words better.
Oh, for sure. Okay, Colin, so what are your favorite social networks, and how does it help your business?
Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for sure. Facebook for my business has been tremendous. The advertising on Facebook is awesome. You can totally target your audience.
Yes.
Spend as much or as little as you want. That's been tremendous. YouTube, for what it is fantastic. Obviously, comes up in search results for things people search for. But also the advertising on YouTube has also been tremendous.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, because I've never used it. I've never known anyone to use YouTube advertising. So is it, do you find it's better than Facebook? Is it more targeted? Is it better value for your money?
I found it was a little better value for my money. I just did it just now for the first time on we do monthly market updates. My dad and I, we work together as realtors, and so we do like kind of quirky, try to be entertaining market updates.
Oh, you do.
He's got like this
they're really good.
super thick German accent, and he's hilarious. But we do, like I said, we do these market updates, and so I advertise them on Facebook, and then I just did advertising on YouTube. And normally we would hit somewhere around 500, 600, 700 views, and we're at, I think, 26 or 2,700 and still counting. So that's been tremendous. And then Instagram, I mean, even little videos, like I walked through a $3 million house today and just did a quick little video of, here's the kitchen, bathroom, and lake view. And people love it. It's great.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Good to know. So, Braden, tell me what your favorite social networks are.
Well, I don't know if I have any favorites. To be honest, social networking is not this like innate thing that I just love. I do it because I know it's good for business. So I kind of tackle all of them. I'm sorry?
Nothing, sorry.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's just, I don't know. Some people just seem to love it. I just know it's good for business. So, like I said, when that project went viral, my Facebook reach was over 1 million
wow.
in a week, and it was pretty incredible. So I'm grateful that they exist. I know it's instrumental for what I do, and really helps spread the work. So I don't know. I mean, I guess Facebook is still pretty practical. I don't actually have a personal Facebook, but yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr I use as my news feed. I don't really expect things to go viral, but it just is connected to my website, so it's just an easy way to kind of keep everyone up to date on what I'm doing. So if anyone goes to my website, they're like, oh, what are his latest projects? I usually post a few things on Tumblr.
So you're using Tumblr mostly like a blog?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's interesting that you said that you don't have a real natural affinity to it. And sometimes it's true that we just have to do things because it's marketing your business, and it just makes sense. So not everybody's going to love it, and I certainly don't love every social network that I use. But you either find your favorites and make it work for you, or you realize that it's just a perfect match for your target market or whatever it is, and it gets you results. So you don't have to love it. Kind of like doing your bookkeeping. You don't necessarily love it, but it helps you keep track of your money. So
right. I mean, the way I feel about it is, it's like, you might be a writer, you might be a photographer, you might be really good at social media. It is kind of an art form in its own right.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's hard to understand that until you really dive into it and just realize, well, this is what I love. It comes natural to me, or it isn't. And some people just get it, and I don't know. I do honestly have help with some of my social media, which is great.
Oh, that's great, because I'm going to come back to that later. So how about networking and photographers? How important is it, and not just networking online with social media, but like real life networking and connecting with people, meeting up with them for coffee, or emailing and picking up the phone and doing it? Tell us about your networking experience, Braden.
Networking is key. So I lived in New York for 4 years, and before moving back to San Francisco, and a lot of jobs came from going to gallery openings or going to this event called Adhesive, where a lot of artists just meet up at a new bar every month and socialize and exchange business cards. Or I don't know, just really being out there, it really helps. For example, I have a rep based in New York, and she just went to a gallery opening, and I'm not going to say the potential client, but she met with someone who is in the tourism field, and she got me a meeting, and it's leading to a really great job.
Right.
So it's really crucial to get out there and to have people know you, and I think it's important to keep doing that regardless of how great your social media impact is. Okay,
yeah, great to know. So Colin, how about you? How important is networking for your business?
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, I'm in a city of about 160,000 people, and it's all about who you know. Photography is incredibly competitive here. Real estate is incredible. There's 200 homes that sell a month, and there's 800 realtors, to put it in a little bit of perspective.
Wow.
Like, it's outrageous. So networking is tremendous. Again, it's about getting in front of people and letting them see your personality, and if you click with that or not. If you're looking for whatever it is, and you're this upbeat, bubbly person, you don't want to deal with somebody who's really slow-paced, or if you're a really slow-paced person, you maybe don't want to deal with somebody who's really upbeat and bubbly. So networking's huge. I mean, any kind of networking events, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce event, or whether it's a gallery opening like was just mentioned, anything. Just meet people, make sure that everybody you know is a photographer, post as much work as you can so they can see what you do, and tell them what you do.
Great. That's great advice. Okay, Jamie, tell me about how important networking is for your business.
Networking for me is a growing thing in my life. I'm a little bit more of an introvert, so it's not super natural for me to just be at networking parties, that sort of thing. What's worked best for me is one-on-one meetings, because I'm very comfortable in that kind of a setting. And so even just yesterday, I met with 6 different wedding coordinators at some of the top venues in Vancouver. And so I drove in for the day and just tried to connect with them, help them any way that I could, have face-to-face meetings. all of them, of course, I had emailed with before, but there really is nothing to replace that face-to-face connection. And in terms of, I think one of the original questions was networking with photographers specifically. For me, that's something, it is really fun socially to be in groups of big photographers, but I've chosen to really get to know a few well. And some of my closest friends I met through the industry. And my maid of honor at my wedding, she's a wedding photographer, and I met at a photography conference. And so a lot of those have developed into lifelong friendships. But she's not local. So locally, there's about 1 or 2 or 3 different photographers who we share our calendars. And so if one of us is booked, we refer to the other. And so that kind of relationship is so valuable. So I think spending your time on a few of those rather than gathering yourself can be really applicable, especially in the wedding industry. I think that would be very different for like Braden's circles, right? But for weddings, you have a few key people that are kind of like the powerful people in the wedding industry. So,
and that's a really, really good point. The fact that, like Colin said, there are so many photographers in Kelowna where we live, and so few wedding venues and so many weddings that happen every year. But getting connected with other photographers, because you can inevitably share work. You might be booked for a weekend, and you want to know someone who you can recommend with confidence, and
right.
They're going to recommend you as well, and having that kind of little network of not just referrals but support as well. I think that's a really good point. Mm-hmm. And you said that you met with wedding vendors one-on-one. So do you have certain wedding venues or places that you aspire to shoot at? Like in England, I lived in England for 4 years, and I thought, I really want to take wedding pictures at a castle, so I want to get in with this wedding venue. Do you go and solicit places that you want to connect with and help promote you?
Well, at this point, I've been shooting for 7 years, almost 200 weddings, so I've almost shot at every venue in Vancouver. So most of these, even though there are tons, honestly, I bet you I've shot at 100 different venues. Every single one of these meetings I had shot at their venues before.
Right.
So more like giving them my images, asking what they need for marketing purposes. So more that kind of thing. I like to have kind of my foot in the door in a way, rather than like I'm one of the 1,000 photographers in Vancouver, like recommend me. I know I need to show up with proof. This is the work I've done at your venue, and if you want it, like I'm happy to give it to you for your marketing purposes.
Right. So basically, just making that personal connection and taking it offline and getting to know people. Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. Thanks, Jamie. So how about branding and your not just business cards and things like that, your personal brand and your website? I know Jamie just launched her new website. Was it just a few weeks ago that it went live?
Friday.
Friday. Oh, is that soon? So how about branding in your business? How important is it to have a specific image and to have your brand speak to a target audience?
Mm-hmm. I think it's very important, because there are, I don't know what the stats are, but how many thousands of weddings that take place in Vancouver every year. And that might be overestimation. 1,000? I don't know. A lot. And there's a specific type of couple that I would like to work with, and I want them to love what I do and trust what I do and trust me over all the other photographers and really believe that I am the best. And I'm not the best for everyone, but for them, I'm the best, And so I want clients to believe that about me. And so my brand is really instrumental in that, because I want people, when they click onto my website, they're either going to love it or they're going to hate it. I don't want them to feel just like meh about it, So if I turn someone off, that's a good thing. I'm like, great, you're going to find someone else who shoots a totally different style, and you're going to love them, and you're going to love your wedding photos. So glad you're not going with me. But if they do love what I do, that's a perfect situation. And so I work with a handful of different designers. My logo was done by a designer called We Are Sliding in Seattle. And then my blog was done by a different designer, Reckless Creative. My new website was just by Promise Tangman. So I have a handful of different people that have worked with me over the years, and I'm always refining my brand. I think that's something that grows with you as you grow, and so it shouldn't be the same as it was 5 years ago.
Right. Okay, so Colin, how about branding and you in both your photography business and your real estate business? How important is it?
Tremendous. First, I want to agree with Jamie. I mean, I think picking kind of your style and having people love it or hate it is a great way of looking at it. You don't want somebody who's mediocre about it. If they're going to hate it, fine. You can't please everybody. You don't want to please everybody. It's impossible. But for us, it's been tremendous. My photography branding, not so much. I haven't spent too much focus on it. But real estate, of course, hugely important. I work together with my family, so I've really used that as kind of an anchor for trust and integrity and things like that. But of course, branding's huge. The more places people see that same logo, the more they trust, the more they get to know it, and they say, oh, I saw this here, and I saw it again here, and I saw it again there. It's tremendous, absolutely.
And not just branding, but like your personality, like the little video clips that you and your dad do. Like obviously you're quite extroverted and there's a lot of humor in it, so people are going to be drawn to that part of your business as well.
If that's what they like. Again, there's some people who I'm sure do not like that at all and are totally turned off by it, and that's fine. Like, so be it. I probably wouldn't want to work with them anyway.
So while you're on that, do you actually get any negative comments about the videos that you've made? Because I think people don't realize that it's not all positive, and we've talked about turning off the wrong people who aren't suited to you and turning on the right people who are going to connect with you. But you must get some comments, and anyone who does podcasting or anything, putting your blog out there, get feedback about, oh, I can't believe you said that in your post, or, what are you thinking? Do you get any kind of feedback like that that's negative, and how do you deal with it?
Sometimes we do. I mean, there's always crazies out there who think we're just mental. They're like, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about, and the market's going to crash, and you have no idea. And we get called all sorts of names. Either way, it doesn't really bother me. I take it with a grain of salt, so be it. If it's really bad or really negative, I'll hide it or delete it with Facebook. It hides it to everybody else except those people and their friends that posted it, so they think it's still out there, which is pretty cool. But for the most part, I mean, I'm not going to let that hold me back. It's the amount of positive comments that we get far outweigh the negative comments. It's probably like 98 to 2, I would say. So I don't let that hold me back at all. And sometimes people are just dumb.
And that's that really speaks to building your community and your tribe and having people who are interested in what you do and who are going to support you when you get negative feedback. I saw a comment on a cafe before about how expensive their prices are, and the entire community posted on Facebook and commented back and said how much they love the products and the service, and it's organic, and all this sort of stuff builds into the price, and really supported the business. It's if you've got your community there to support you, I think that's part of building that brand and having people that really connect with you and are going to jump in and support you.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, Braden, how about you? How about your niche? You've talked about already a little bit. So how important is the branding and having that kind of niche in a specific target market?
Yeah, I mean, to their point, incredibly, it's crucial for your business. I mean, within each sector of photography, the market is saturated with wedding photographers, advertising. So, really the goal for me as an artist is for someone to not even see my name and say that is a Braden Summers photograph. And when that happens, it's incredibly exhilarating, just that people recognize your style. And beyond that, speaking to the design of your marketing and how your website looks, I've really gone through a lot of efforts to make sure that my Tumblr, my Twitter, my Facebook, everything really has a cohesive look and feel to it. And I do all the designing myself. I design my website and everything. So it's important. People want to go to the different sites and just connect with you and your brand.
Right, great. So let's kind of move on to a bit of a different topic, and let's talk about photo editing and Photoshop and how important that sort of thing is to your business, and if you do it yourself or if you actually outsource that. So how about you, Braden, while we've got you on? Go ahead.
For me as an artist, it's integral to the way that I work. My work really strives to have kind of an ethereal, dreamy quality to it, and I think a lot of that comes from pre-production and preparing the color palette and preparing the wardrobe and the hair makeup and finding the right subjects for whatever concept I'm going for. But to kind of bring it to that sense of completeness, for me, it's about the the post-production work. And I have no issues with it. There's no qualms. It's I'm creating a fantasy, and I'm an artist, and this is just part of the way that the image comes to life for me.
Okay, so did you say that you actually outsource that part of it, or do it yourself?
It's both. I mean, up until the last 5 months, I've always been the one to do my own retouching, and I actually get hired quite a bit as a retoucher outside of my photography business. But when it comes to my own work and the work that I'm really excited to promote, I think for me personally, I appreciate being able to direct another artist with a fresh eye to the work. I've seen the work, I've been visualizing it sometimes for months or weeks in advance prior to the shot, you know, in the creation, and then I've gone through the editing where 10,000 images look very similar and I choose the final one. So it's really nice for me to say, you know, to my favorite retoucher, say, hey, you have a fresh eye, you haven't seen the work, how can you bring it to another level? And oftentimes they'll have different ideas than I do, and I just heavily direct them in terms of what I like and what I don't like. So it is, lately I've been outsourcing some of the work, and it's been a great collaborative process.
Good. I was just about to use that word myself, a collaborative process. And I think a lot of photographers, especially young photographers that I'm teaching in the course, but a lot of people don't see the value in outsourcing their photo editing because they feel really connected to their own work and feel like nobody could do it as well as I could. So I'm glad to hear you say that you look at it as kind of an art directing process.
Well, I mean, really the whole shoot is a collaborative process. I mean, I'm certainly not going to go on set and do hair and makeup, and I wouldn't even set up a shoot if I had to be the hair and makeup artist, because I don't know anything about it, and I want an artist who is the best at what they do to come on board. You know, I work, like I said, with hair and makeup artists, I work with wardrobe stylists, and there's so much about the pre-production where I'm collaborating with other artists, and it goes the same for my post-production.
Okay, that makes sense. Colin, so do you do your own photo editing and maybe video editing, or do you actually outsource for that?
No, I do everything myself. I'm kind of a computer geek. I started doing websites when I was about 12 years old and did that all through high school, and it kind of paid for my car and my lifestyle back then. So I know my way around pretty well. So I do all of the editing myself. I do 99% of my photo editing in Lightroom. If I'm doing like a rig shot for a car where it's in motion going around corners or something like that, I'll have to take that into Photoshop, of course, to be able to edit that rig out. But otherwise, most of it's done in Lightroom. For video, I use Adobe Premiere, again, 99% of the time. For travel or really cool stuff, for like color correcting or grading, I'll use different standalone software. But otherwise, yeah, I do it all.
Good. And did you learn that anywhere? Did you just learn from, you know, videos and things online, or just kind of picked it up along the way?
A little bit of both. So when I first started learning Premiere, it was a whole new world from photography. So I actually signed up to lynda.com for the $25 a month. I went there for 1 month, did a whole handful of tutorials just to kind of get me familiar with the workflow and how everything works. And then from there, it was just kind of playing with things, or if I really got stuck, I'd look on YouTube, and of course there'd be some guy from somewhere in the world who does a walkthrough on how to handle this or how to do this. And then other than that, it's just been me kind of learning as I go.
And that's something that's really changed over the last 10 years. There's so much availability, not just on YouTube and Vimeo, but online universities like Udemy and Lydia.com, like you said, that are so inexpensive and you can contribute. And Creative Live is another fantastic example. They've been doing, they're branched into business now, but doing videos for free for years, like 2- and 3-day live workshops. There's just so much available to anybody who wants to pick up photography and learn a new skill, like whether it's Lightroom or Photoshop or video editing or retouching to a certain level or lighting. It's so great that all of this is available, and we don't need to go and spend 2 or 3 years in college or university. And there's, or you can do it and brush up on your skills and just keep up to date.
Absolutely. No, it's been tremendous.
So Jamie, do you do your own photo editing, or do you have a vision when you start and then and pass it off to someone else, or how do you use photo and video editing?
It's a little bit of a mix. For workflow, for my weddings, all of that is outsourced. So I outsourced to a company called thealbumdesign.com. And so they do all of my edits. I'll look through, say, the 3,000 photos I shoot from a wedding, choose 600 or 700, and then send off those raw files to that company. They'll then batch edit them in Lightroom, send them back to me. I have a Lightroom preset that I have, and so that they have that saved on their computer. So it's pretty simple and just easy in that way. For portraits and engagement sessions, I do that myself in Lightroom. I find I'm just pretty quick at it and don't mind it when it's small scale shoots compared to wedding days.
Yeah, I like that for photo shoots and that too. And I do a lot of my own, or some of my own editing. When I do some real estate shoots and commercial type photography, I've got a couple of people that I've sorted through on Odesk, and I work together with them. And I use Lavaloo for photography, for photo editing for weddings generally. Okay, so I've just got one more serious question, and then we'll get to some of the students' questions for you. If you had one piece of advice to give new photographers, what would it be, Jamie?
Read a lot. I think reading is the key to a lot of things. I'm a book lover, fiction, nonfiction, anything. And so that's how I learned a lot of, well, everything I know. That's how I learned everything I know. I never took any formal courses. And so for me, it was just reading photography forums, reading photography blogs, but even more so, reading business and marketing books was really instrumental because it talks about how every market is so saturated. And so you really do have to have a business sense to succeed or hire someone who does. And so if you want to be the one who pushes your business forward, it's really important to have a solid business mind.
So besides reading about business, do you have any business mentors that you've hired or coaches or anything like that?
I don't. I'm really lucky. The parents I grew up with, my dad has his MBA and he's been in the corporate world for years and years. And then my mom never went to college, but she's had her own business for the last 20 years and it's very successful. And so I kind of have the entrepreneurial side in her and then the 3 degrees educated side in him. And so it's been a really neat, that's just the environment I grew up in. My brother has his own company as well. And so it's just...
So it's in the blood.
Yeah.
All right, so Colin, how about you? What is your biggest piece of advice that you would give to photographers just starting out?
Well, just to touch on what Jamie said there, if business is something that you are kind of struggling with that end, I'd highly recommend a book called The E-Myth. It's by Michael Gerber.
Yeah, I've read it too. Yeah.
One I recommend, like, first of all the time. That's awesome.
Yeah, nice. I hate reading. I haven't read a book since high school. My dad gave me a book when I was a kid. It was called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Awesome book, highly recommended. I couldn't make it through. I hated reading, but I started listening to audiobooks, and it's been all the difference. But back to your question about piece of advice, get your name out. Just do as much, do the kind of photos that you want to do, post them up. People will see it, and meet people like our local yacht club here. I did pictures for them before. They have a whole new menu now. I'm going back to take pictures for them there. They're building a new building, so they want me to come back and take new pictures of their new building. It's going to be an icon on our waterfront here. Just get out there, take pictures, do what you love, and people will see it and they'll say, oh, you know, I know this guy who did this, and you'll get the business.
Good. Just get out there and do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Colin. So, Braden, what is your biggest piece of advice to offer new photographers?
Well, to Colin's points, I mean, really do what you love. As I mentioned before, every market is saturated with photographers, and you really have to find something that you absolutely love doing, that you're incredibly passionate about, because that is going to drive you further to kind of create the best work that you can possibly create and constantly grow and be critical of yourself and learn from your own mistakes. And if you're not super passionate about it, there's someone else is, and they're going to grow beyond you, and they're going to get to work. And the other advice is patience. One of my mentors when I was still in school said it's going to take 2 to 3 years longer than you think it's going to take for you to have even like a hint of success. And you know, I graduated right when the market crashed, and so you take that number and triple it basically. And it's taken like 6 years to get to even the semblance of the career that I want to have. And I feel like I'm finally just getting there, and it's really exciting. But it's taken 6 years of passion, hard work, and patience.
That's such a great point that you bring up, because I feel like that in not just my photography business but social media, and I have the same kind of experience, that it's been like 3 years where, you know, people are all getting to know me and everyone's like, oh my God, you're doing so well, but you know that you're not as successful as you'd like to be, or you're not bringing in as much money, even though you've got clients. You know, you want to get to a certain level, you've got your own goals, but then eventually it just kind of starts to come, and those referrals start to come in, that you've been there long enough that people start to recognize who you are and remember that, oh yeah, the photographer, yeah, I remember her, or you know, from something else that they actually, years down the road, it's finally starting to come back. And there are no overnight successes, because for me, looking at you, I would think, oh my God, you're an overnight success, because I never heard of you before.
No. Yeah, no, I mean, and it's daunting to hear that as a student, where a lot of times teachers don't really talk about what's next after, or at least in the school that I went to. It was a great learning environment, but it was in no way a preparation for what is the market actually like. And it's like 2 to 3 years, I won't be successful for 2 to 3 years. That's so daunting. And then 6 years later, it's like, okay, I'm still at this, still trying to push my career forward. But I'm super passionate about what I do. I love it. I really can't imagine doing anything else. And trust me, I have thought on many, many, many occasions, what else can I do with my life? Because I don't know if this career is really going to happen. And then, you know, I worked on this passion project, and people took note of the fact that I was really passionate about this work, and that's what went viral, and that's what's led to some of the successes that I've had as of late.
I love that term. I love the term passion project, and I've actually used that myself for anything that you probably get a lot of requests for any of you to do work for free, or can you just do this, or you know. So anything that I do take on, it does for me, like this. I mean, you guys are volunteering your time, so thank you so much for that. It has to be a passion project, like you said. It has to mean something to me, or it has to fit in alignment with you know, my goals and my values. And a lot of it does have to do with, am I excited about this project to be involved in it? And that's going to be a yes for me. And of course, I don't take on all that many, but sometimes that yes can be just something that I'm just so inspired by and so excited by. And that's how I judge my volunteer type projects, or time that I'm spending on things that I'm not getting paid for. Does anyone else want to comment on that, like passion projects and taking on stuff for free?
Yeah, I mean...
Sorry, no, you go ahead. No, Braden, by all means, you're more qualified than I am, that's for sure.
Braden.
Oh, damn it!
You're out, Colin, you're out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even before I worked on this passion project, All Love is Equal, I have traveled with several different volunteer, actually not volunteer groups, but several different nonprofits in the past where they've asked me to go to these different countries and promote the work that they've been doing. It's mostly been clean water based. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough that I have always been able to say yes, whether they're supporting my travel accommodation or whether they're not. But there's a big activist side within me, and I really loved working with them, and it didn't feel like I was being taken advantage of. It was just, I get to explore these different countries. I love working with people, and the work that I created helped raise money for these organizations to further their work. And you know, the bigger the nonprofit organizations they are, the more you have to question, should I be doing this for free? Because there is money involved, and you should be getting paid for the work you do. But on small levels, I think it's okay to use your skills and do some work for free if it's something you really believe in and has good cause. But that being said, if you do too much work for free outside of those passion projects, then you're bringing down the industry, and people will expect to get things for free and your services. So just, you really have to be careful about what you pick and choose.
And Colin, do you want to just jump in? You had a comment about that too.
Yeah, no, I think Braden nailed it on the head. Yeah, do what you love. Passion projects are important. I think they keep you interested in photography and keep your kind of creative juices flowing. But at the same time, there comes a point where you just have to say, no, I can't afford to do this because I still need to get paid.
Yeah, absolutely. So how about I wrap it up with that, and I will ask the, I've got a bunch of questions that I've got in the chat box here from the students. So if anyone has any other questions, just go ahead to the Facebook page. There's a big yellow arrow, and just put your questions in that, and I'll try and get them online to the photographers. And if Jennifer wants to come online now and just ask your question and be live, come on up. So I'll just go ahead and just ask the questions that I've got here in the chat box. So from Krista, what do you want your viewers to take away from your work? So it's just a general question. Who wants to jump in and answer that?
I'll go. I mean, it depends on the picture, but obviously the biggest emotional response I typically go for, like I do a lot of landscape now. I just want people to say, wow, that's beautiful. Or like I did a travel video of when I went to Southeast Asia and I showed it to a girl. I love that video. That's so great. Thank you, thank you. I just showed it to a girl who had been there, and she's like, you know, it gave me chills. It made me want to go and travel again. It was gorgeous. So that's kind of the kind of photography or impact that I'm going for when I take pictures or do anything like that. It's a bit of an emotional response for sure, but beauty is kind of what I'm trying to capture.
Okay. How about, I'll just ask this just to random people. So Jamie, what is something you're still learning, and if you weren't a photographer, what would you be?
I would write. I would be a writer if I wasn't a photographer. Something I'm still learning. I mean, everything. You're always still learning. Like my actual photography work is always evolving. My business sense is always evolving. Yeah, just how to run a more efficient business year by year and have a better work-life balance and really make my business work for me in the life that I want, rather than the other way around. So I don't think you ever stop.
Okay. And this is actually a question specifically to you. So this is from YouTube. How do you run your photography business with an eco-friendly mindset?
Yeah, I saw that question on the sidebar. I've been thinking about it. I have no idea. I send emails and I don't write letters. I genuinely don't know. Like I don't consider myself super eco-friendly. I drive a car. I don't take transit. I live in the suburbs, so I don't know.
Okay. Does anyone else have an answer for that question? Maybe not even necessarily eco-friendly, but a conscious mindset. How about that?
Well, in terms of showing my work, I mean, even a few years ago, it was really important to have a portfolio. And I do have a small portfolio of my latest project just because I'm really passionate about it, and I think work shows really beautifully on paper. But for the most part, when I'm showing my work, I do have an iPad. And I know as a student I used to waste a lot of paper just constantly making test prints and printing my portfolio and making edits and throwing paper out, and you just go through ink and paper.
I remember those days too, yeah.
Yeah, and it was expensive. And all the ink cartridges are, you know, you can recycle them, but often life gets in the way and you don't, so you have to recycle them in certain ways. And it's really exciting to just update all of your work on an iPad. So, I mean, I think the nature of the business is evolving in a more eco-friendly way in general. But I think that's my main point.
All right, so Jennifer, welcome. So Jennifer is one of the students here at the Center for Arts and Technology. So I'm so glad that you were brave and came on the show. So why don't you introduce yourself and the type of photography that you do and ask your questions.
Okay, so my name's Jennifer. I've recently started a little bit on my company, Jennifer Maryland Photography, through school here. And my main goal is to work with wedding photography and portrait photography is what I'm aiming for.
Okay. So,
and
go ahead.
Yeah, so my questions, I have a couple. They're for everyone. So my first question is, what inspires you most and why? And so we'll just go down the line. So let's start with Jamie, I guess.
What inspires me most would probably be, I don't know if this is cliche or lame, but my own relationship with my husband and how valuable a relationship that is to me and what I have learned through that and continue to learn through that. And we just recently got married, so for the first 7 years of my career, I was single mainly. And I think it's just added a whole new dimension to what I do. And every couple that I meet with, I'm like, wow, this is like, love is a real thing. And it's just really sweet. And so I think that inspires me even more, because now that we have this story and this history, every couple I meet, I'm like, man, you got to this place too, and you're getting married, and that's a big deal. And so I just get really inspired by that, and I want to capture it like I would want someone to capture me and my husband.
Right. Great. So, Colin, do you want to answer what inspires you?
How am I supposed to follow up to that? Oh my goodness, that's ridiculous.
Well, you've talked a lot about car photography, and that seems to be
no, for sure.
Car and travel photography.
Yeah, absolutely. What inspires me, looking at other people's work, especially for video. Like I'm going on a big 10-day trekking trip here next month. So just looking at other people's work and just catching a glimpse of that. And that's kind of cool. Or I could kind of take that idea and adapt it in this way. Or just even watching movies, just having an eye for the shots that they're doing and the lighting that they use inspires me for different ideas that I do. As I walk around, I just, like I'm sure the rest of you do as well, your eye is just always on. You say, oh, that would be a cool picture. Oh, that would be a cool picture. Oh, that would make a cool shot. You just can't turn it off. So everywhere I look, I guess I kind of draw inspiration from, no matter what I'm doing. My friends don't always like watching movies with me anymore because I actually point these things out. But
I do the same thing. I geek out like that too. We should watch movies together, Colin.
Yeah, there you go.
You can shout the whole time.
Yeah.
I think to contradict that a little bit for me is, I don't know, I think people expect me to walk around the city and always have this eye for, oh, that would be a cool shot, but that's really not how I work. For me, it's always about the fantasy. And so I go to a lot of art galleries to get inspired from paintings, and I travel a lot because foreign places inspire that fantasy for me. And it's coming up with vision. So a lot of times I'll brainstorm on my sketchbook more than anything, and then I'll have this idea of what I want to create, and it could be weeks or months of envisioning what that shot is going to look like, and then just finding the right location and finding the right subject and all of the right pieces to make that vision come to fruition.
Good answer. And I like that you're not agreeing on that too. That's good.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, what's your other question?
What is the biggest obstacle you have had to overcome in your career, and how did you overcome it?
So do you want to just go ahead, Braden?
Man, a big it's really the internal struggle. Do I continue? Do I give up? Are people going to respond to my work? Is the market too saturated for me to even try to go about this? I mean, if I'm not in the top 0.001% of the photographers, it's hard to be successful. People gravitate towards those who are at the top, and so the obstacle is just do I persist? And even when my career hits all-time highs, the next day it's like, okay, when's the next job coming?
Right.
And you have to question that. And thankfully, in the past 6 years, that persistence has always outweighed the negative thoughts that are in my head telling me maybe I should quit. And so I think that's my obstacle.
Right. Colin. Colin's just going to be heading off, so do you want to just answer that question? And
Yeah, sure, real quick. I think a lot along those similar lines of what Braden said. Finding clients is always the biggest challenge, and that's definitely my biggest obstacle, keeping kind of that pipeline full. Because when you're busy and you have shoots lined up or clients lined up, and you're just busy working, you don't have time to go out and find new people and prospect. And so your pipeline is empty all of a sudden, and all of your work just dried up, and you say, shoot, now what do I do? So being able to find new clients and work and stay busy at the same time and not have your business go like this, for me anyways, being self-employed is tough. It's tough, for sure.
yeah, I think that's valid for any business, not just photographers, obviously.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So do you have time for another very quick question? This is my last question I'm going to ask everybody before you leave. If you could have one person to dinner, living or dead, who would it be and why? Who is your all-time ultimate bucket list person that you would want to interact with?
I don't even know. I don't have an answer off the top of my head.
Okay,
I know that's a terrible answer.
That's okay. Go ahead and pop it in the Facebook chat then afterwards and
Sure.
come back to it.
Okay, sounds
so
good.
thank you so much for being with us, Colin. And
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Great having you here. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. Nice to meet you.
Right, yeah. Bye, Colin.
See you.
So, Jamie, if you want to just follow up and answer that obstacle question.
For me, it would have to be my favorite writer, C.S. Lewis. And I think he just had a brilliant, brilliant mind and how he understood faith and theology and some of these big questions. And I've read almost all of his books, I think all of them at this point. And some of them are just so heady, you need to read and reread. And I just think he'd be a brilliant man to like spend an evening talking to and questioning and like, how did you come to this conclusion? And what about this?
And don't you find that about books and movies? Sometimes they when you see critiques about, especially things like in Cole's Notes and that, when they critique any kind of book, and you think, were they really thinking that?
Yeah.
Did they really name this person?
Totally that interpretation.
Exactly. I want to ask for me, it would probably be some novelist or something like that. I'm not sure who mine would be, to be honest. And Braden, so who would your bucket list person be to invite to dinner?
As a person inspired by a unique sense of beauty, there's just something about Tilda Swinton that is so intriguing to me. And, I wouldn't just want to invite her to dinner. I'd want to do an entire photo series with her or something. I don't know. I think she's just a vision, and she inspires that fantasy for me. So she's up there.
Okay, I'm just kind of reading some of the questions, and so let's wrap it up. We've gone for just about an hour now, so I'm just going to wrap it up with some quick fire questions. And somebody's posted something that's the typical question that you see. Let's just start with you, Braden, while we've got you on. What type of camera, Nikon or Canon, or other?
Yeah, well, so I have to say, the technology aspect of my work is important, but I'm not tied to any of it. I use a Canon. That's the short answer. But the long answer is I really don't care. It's just it's a tool to kind of create what I want to create, and I can use a Hasselblad. I can use a Canon. It's just that's what I'm used to and familiar with. But if someone said, "Here's an Nikon," I should be able to shoot the exact same thing. It really doesn't matter to me.
Here's the ultimate top of the range camera. Do you want it for free or not? Okay,
Right.
so let's move on. These are just going to be quick questions too. I guess it's just the two of you left. So, Jamie, holidays with sun and sand or on the slopes?
Oh, sun and sand.
Okay, so back to Braden, traveler or homebody? This is a bad question to ask you. I'm just asking them in order. I can guess the answer for that one.
Traveler.
Jamie, Starbucks or Tim Hortons?
Starbucks.
Braden, Batman or Iron Man?
Iron Man. I'm training for an Iron Man.
Ooh, awesome. Good for you. I'm training for an across the lake swim in Kelowna too.
Okay.
Jamie, so this will be the final one. Calgary Flames or Vancouver Canucks?
Canucks.
I thought that might be your answer. All right, so that is, we'll just wrap it up there. Thank you so much to the photographers for coming on with us today and for taking the time out of their schedules. And for everybody who's watching, thank you for submitting questions and sticking with us today. You can watch it as a replay on YouTube later if you didn't catch it, and post your questions and we'll try and get them answered. And my name is Angelique Duffield from Bright Spark Media, so thank you to Braden and Jamie and Colin who's left us, and to Jennifer who popped on the show and asked her questions from CATO. And thank you to Robyn, who is the behind-the-scenes producer today, who's been doing all this stuff, keeping us on track and pulling the questions up so we could answer them. So thank you everybody so much for being here on this Google Hangouts on Air about photography pros and using social media and networking.